How's it going, all you beautiful Division agents out there? I'm Relentless XRG, and today I bring you a Division 2 build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to reach up there and trigger that bell so that way you have post notifications on, so you are always notified when a video goes up or a stream goes live. That's right, just reach up there, trigger that bell, and you'll never miss an upload or a live stream. But anyways, what I have for you today, yes, I call it the morning after build because definitely when you get hit by this, you'll be feeling it all the way into the next morning. If you tuned into the stream last night, you will see firsthand well over an hour's worth of laying complete waste and deleting agents in the Dark Zone. I'll leave the timestamp for that live stream so that way you can go directly to it and have a full-length, hour-long or more gameplay video with this build. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. Not too many people utilize the 3-piece yaw gear. It is a brand set that can only be found and obtained in the Dark Zone. So let's start with the weapons first. We have the military P416, 25.2k base damage. We're utilizing Ranger. Every 5 meters you are from the target, grants plus 2% weapon damage, and of course we have Allegro in the second slot. I have it modded to my personal preference because usually I'm in the Dark Zone, but if you want a little bit more accuracy or stability, then by all means mod to suit your playstyle and needs. But since I do not have any damage to elites at all on my build as far as the gear pieces themselves, so I have a little bit of damage to elites in my weapons mods. By way of the EXPS3 Hollow Sight, I got 8% damage to elites. I have the plus 20 rounds of the 5.56 magazine. And then of course I got the 10% reload speed. So basically I kind of zeroed out that negative 10%. So I broke even. And then of course the 5.56 muzzle, we have another 5% damage to elites. You don't need that much in the Dark Zone, but if you're trying to PvP, then any way that you can take down those pesky NPCs, quicker, so that way you can get back to deleting agents, then by all means, that is why I have this bare minimum damage to elites on there, just so I can dispatch NPCs faster. In our secondary slot, we have the Chatterbox because we are just utilizing the Blabbermouth. While holstered, reloading your weapon within 5 seconds after a kill grants 20% rate of fire for 10 seconds. And also I am utilizing the Gunner Specialist. We'll be going over that skill tree after I get through with the build video as far as going over the weapons and gear, because some of the talents on the talent tree are very synergetic when it comes to this build. So stay tuned for that thereafter. Alright, so let's hop into the gear pieces themselves. We'll start with the chest piece. Now, if you're any familiar with the Providence brand set, it basically has kind of along the same lines of the same talents. You both get 5% weapon damage for both brand sets. And also, instead of the 10% weapon handling like you get on the yaw gear, on the Providence you get basically the 10% skill power. But since this is pure out straight DPS, then the yaw gear brand set best suits the playstyle and the needs for this particular build, because we're focusing more or less just on straight damage, and of course we got for one piece that additional weapon handling, but there's no need for the one piece of Providence to give you that 10% skill power. So in this situation, the yaw gear brand set is better. But like I said, for having 3 pieces of yaw gear, you get 10% weapon handling, 8% hazard protection, and 5% weapon damage. The attributes on this chest piece is 8.5% total armor, 13.5% weapon damage, and then 31,614 armor. And then of course we have hardened, additional plus 10% armor. In the mod slots, we have 41 to 42 armor, 414 armor regen, and then 4% total armor. And the second mod slot, we have an offensive mod slot with 5% assault rifle damage, 1.5% weapon damage, and then 2% shotgun damage. Of course, I don't use the cheesy shotgun, so therefore we just have this for the 6.5% additional damage that we get by way of assault rifle. Now, when it comes to the hardened talent, it's essentially just like using Unstoppable Force, because you have to get a kill for you to proc anything. But in this case, you're pretty much dead set just even. You're dishing out enough damage and sustained damage to where it works out really, really well, and there's really no need for a chest piece here. But if I wanted to go to the Berserk route, I do have this Yaw-Gear chest piece that has 8.5% total armor, 11% weapon damage, and then 291 skill power. But I've already done a Berserk, so therefore that is why I am going with this one, and it works out really, really well. Now moving on to the second piece in that brand set, we have in the Mask 13% hazard protection, 11,252 health, and of course the talent self-adjusting, plus 20% armor regen. Now moving on to the third and final piece of this brand set, we have, by way of gloves, 8991 health, 11% assault rifle damage, and of course we have devastating, plus 5% weapon damage. Now if you like to go for headshots, and let's say you're on PC, or you just have better aim than my potato aim, then you can also choose to go the precise route, so that way you get 15% headshot damage instead of the flat 5% additive weapon damage. Now moving on to the backpack. Backpack, it is a Heliguard backpack. Unfortunately, I'm only able to utilize one talent on it, which is Hardened. On the ropes, it requires 7 or more utility Legos, and I only have one. But it does meet its purpose because it has 10% weapon damage, that's by way of attribute, and then 20,729 health, and then 14,583 armor. And then, of course, in the mod slots, 125 skill power, 2% increased disrupt, but basically, since we're not utilizing any skills, I just stuck this mod in here because it had plus 3% reload speed. And then we get a defensive mod slot by way of the second mod, and we have 5107 armor, 3% total armor, and then 1619 armor on kill. Now moving on to the second piece of the Heliguard, we have the holster. On the holster, we get 14.5% health, 27,489 additional health, and then it comes with 2 offensive mod slots in this Heliguard holster, that's pretty much my go-to brand set. And we have 2 like-minded offensive mods by way of 5% assault rifle damage. Then on one we have 1% additional weapon damage, on the other 1.5%. So just for this particular holster, when having the offensive mod slots, we are getting 12.5% additional damage. So that's a huge chunk of damage on our holster. Now moving on to the knee pads. It is the only Fenris Group A and B piece that we have on it, because one piece gives you 10% assault rifle damage, and the attributes on it are 10.5% total armor, and of course the other talent is plus 20% armor regeneration. And then patience. After being in cover for 5 seconds, armor repairs by 5% every second. So you can mix and match if you don't want the additional offensive mod slots by way of Heliguard. You could go a little tankier. You're going to miss out on a little bit of damage, but you can throw on like a Fenris AB group holster and use devastating. So that way you still get some kind of a damage out of your holster. And then in turn you can go with the Heliguard knee pads, which has 2 defensive mod slots. So that way if you want to get your armor values up and your armor pool higher, then you can just switch out these pieces and just run a Fenris AB in the holster, and then of course the Heliguard knee pads in the knee pad slot. So that way you gain about 25 to 30k armor, but then you're also going to be missing out on like 7.5 to 8% weapon damage. So mix and match how you see fit, but it is the most underestimated, underused gear brand set in the entire game that can only be found in the Dark Zone. There's not too many people that's even covered it or made builds out of it, but like I said, if you look at the gameplay from the stream last night, over an hour's worth of complete and utter destruction, just deleting agents left and right. So go check it out and just witness the pure mayhem and insanity yourself. But let's go over the character sheet before I forget again. 25,182 weapon damage, no crit chance because we're just going off base raw damage, 3% reload speed, and then we got the plus 10% weapon handling, 37.5% all weapon damage bonus, and then 51% assault rifle damage for a total of 88.5% weapon damage. 29% health damage, 13% damage to elites, that's just all the mods on my weapon. And on to the defensive stats: 355, 266 armor, 10% armor on kill, 414 armor regen, 109, 366 max health, of course 54,683 health regen, and then 41% hazard, bleed, blind, burn, disorient, disrupt, and shock resistance, and of course minimal skill power. So now let's go over to the White House, and then I'll show you and go over the talent tree that and the reason why we are utilizing the things that we are with this build. We'll see you guys later. Now that we're here at the base of operations, let's go over the talent tree of the Gunner Specialist. Since we are only using an AR and only have a Chatterbox as our secondary because of the Blabbermouth talent, we have only 15% assault rifle damage added on and no other weapons currently, because we are only utilizing the AR and just using the talents of our secondary. Moving on. You get 10% armor on kill, which is very minuscule, but it can play its part and role and actually help you out. And then we have every third reload is 50% faster. So on that third reload, basically your reload is 0.9 seconds. So super quick. And then of course we have the hardened armor kits. Armor kit repairs 100% armor and grants 50% bonus armor for 10 seconds. I know this is really good, but 9 times out of 10, I've only actually popped an armor kit, if I absolutely have to. If I just need that additional armor like really quick and don't have more or less the time to just either use by fixer drone or drop a chem hill to repair my armor, if I need it super fast and getting pushed by multiple agents, then yes, I will go ahead and pop one of these armor kits. But just know there is a more or less a cooldown, so that way you can't just repeatedly spam and constantly get that plus 50% additional armor on top of getting your armor topped off at 100%. Now moving on to the bottom ones, generate 10% of total ammo capacity every 60 seconds. Party members gain 5% ammo. This works out really well because if you are consistently PvPing in the Dark Zone and you hit Manhunt, instead of having to wipe out NPCs just to try to collect additional ammo because you're running out, you need not worry because you'll generate your own ammo and you'll get 10% of that. So basically you get 810, 10% of that, 80 bullets every 60 seconds. So you'll be good to go. And then of course, in placement, you gain 20% weapon handling whilst not moving. Need to be motionless for 1 second. Works out really well when you accompany that with the patience that I have on the build. So that way if you are shooting from cover, you can just straight beam and have pinpoint accuracy, because also just while being in cover, you get a weapon handling boost. And then for a split second after you're in that cover, right before the patience kicks in where you get the 5% armor per second after 5 seconds, you also are gaining that 20% weapon handling. And then we have utilizing yaw gear, so having one piece gives you 10% weapon handling, so you can be super accurate. And of course, this barrage talent on the gunner works out really well when you are utilizing the Blabbermouth talent on the Chatterbox. So that way it procs when you get a kill and then you reload within the next 5 seconds. So since your reload is super quick with an AR, instead of getting just the 20%, you also get an additional 5% rate of fire after a kill and upon reload. But that is basically the main reason why I'm using it, because the rate of fire works really well when you pair it with the Chatterbox holster talent. And then of course in certain situations that 50% bonus armor definitely comes in handy, and then of course the third reload is 50% faster. But definitely try it out. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's the most underestimated, underutilized brand set in all of Division and can only be found in the Dark Zone. So if you can find the right pieces, as I'm continuing to search for better pieces, but this is the best I have so far. And having Harding as a talent is really not that bad, because as you can see, I'm still doing tremendously enough damage to completely delete anybody that stands in front of me, as you'll see in the gameplay once you go check that out from last night's live stream. And the timestamp to where we first go into the Dark Zone and engage in more or less PvP, that timestamp is right there, as you see popped up on the screen. So go to that, start watching from there, and then from there on to the end of the stream, it is nothing but, a lit DZ and some PvP action. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you all for the love and support. We'll see you guys later.